Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Every Nation. This is family in the building right here. She got the big Africa earrings rocking and the bandana. Like, she about to take us to the motherland right now.
All the way in San Diego.
All the way in San Diego, Miss Edwards. How are you on this fine? I almost about to say Sunday, but I forgot it's Monday.
I know. I know. This is a holiday. I'm blessed. I am truly grateful. Thank you for this opportunity. How are you?
Yes, yes. We've been fam ever since day one when we got connected. You know what? I forget our origin story. How did we meet? Refresh my memory.
Yeah, so you were the orientation trainer for the County of San Diego when I started as a staff development specialist.
Yes. Okay.
Really before the pandemic took off,
Uh huh.
2020, January.
Man, can you believe it's been that long now?
No,
Jeez.
and all that we've accomplished in
Mm,
that amount of time and things that could have distracted us but didn't.
man,
This is a
and
miracle.
it's a miracle. Whatever you believe in, God, the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, the Mother Earth, the divine intuition. It got us here,
Hmm.
but we here
Yep,
now.
yep. And you can't stop us.
Can't stop us. Can't stop what we destined to
Yeah,
do in
exactly.
this work of equity, diversity, inclusion. So we're gonna get into a nice little conversation with Miss Edwards today, talk about her career growth and so forth. But let me dial it back a little bit because some people are like, who is Miss Edwards? And for the people who don't know you, who is Kia? Like, and you can go wherever you want to go with that. Give the people
Oh,
an
well, that's
introduction.
good. That's really good because Kia is from Dakia, which is from Zakia. My mom got that name from Zakia, and Zakia is Arabic for highly intelligent.
Mm.
So, Kia is someone that has to shorten her name so that
Mm.
people can
Speak
pronounce
on
it
it now.
correctly, Takia. Um, but in terms of the intelligence piece, I don't look at that necessarily as always grades and academics, but more just making wise choices, being intentional about the things that I get involved in, the people I connect with, and just doing meaningful work in the community and in my home. I would say that that fosters or that is an example of intelligence. Beyond that, the typical, it's not necessarily typical for everyone, but I am a mother of two
Hmm.
underage 6-year-old boys. They are very active, and you may hear them this evening. I am a wife um, to a fellow HBCU graduate who he and I tend to joke about being a house divided because I went to Clark Atlanta University and he went to Grambling State University. And so we tend to battle on whose HBCU is the best. And I'm a native San Diegan, so even though I left and came back and then left again and came back again a couple of times by way of Atlanta, Georgia,
Hmm.
I am very passionate about my Southeast San Diego family. I went to Valencia Park, and so
Love it.
I have been doing community service in San Diego since I returned. Some of my little just philanthropy resume is inclusive of United Negro College Fund. I recently, in the past couple of years, chartered the white paper for July's Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month along with another sorority sister. To the sorority note, I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a
Okay.
new member of Jack and Jill, and the list just goes on the things that I am socially and activist wise in the community, all wrapped
Nice.
up in a chef and laundry and Chuck E. Cheese runs and
Wait, I ain't know about this chef part. I'm gonna have to
I
come
mean I'm
sample.
talking I'm talking yes I mean I make a mean macaroni and cheese, but like you know what I mean, like for the kids, like it's just
Yeah.
all I just got out of the kitchen, so yeah,
Okay.
I
Call you
ain't
Chef Curry
perfect,
up there cooking
definitely.
up in the pot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so us moms, we tend to feel like we got like 17 plates at the same time, in addition to all that
Yeah.
other stuff I just shared. I am
I,
also a new entrepreneur of Champion Instructors Education and Training, which I'm sure we're going to get into.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into that in just a second. Man, I learned so like every time I think we reconnect, I learn something new about you. Now I learned a whole token of stuff new about you. First of all, how did your mom come up with that name? Like, did she find it somewhere? Did it get? Is it from grandma, great grandma? Like, how did that come to be?
I think my grandmother had a friend named Zakia, and
Okay.
she was Muslim, and that the name with the Kiyyah, that
Hmm.
spelling, is Arabic for highly intelligent. So she just put the DE in front and just
Gotcha.
gave me all those letters as well. But ironically too, I was raised in a, is the word bi, can you say bi religion or dual religion? So my mother was Christian, my stepfather was Muslim, so I did practice some Islam growing up, and
Okay.
then we also went to church too. So I think
Man.
that my name is very special, even though I grew up in that environment where it was like twofold.
Man, I love it. I love us so much because we just so creative. Shout out to all the black moms out there setting us on paths of purpose. With some acknowledge, not even some may have realized it, some may have not have realized it. Just from the start of birth, like my mom put the Y in Terrell, spelled it all differently, and gave us like just names and powerful names that set us
Hmm.
on this trajectory that we didn't even know we were
Sure.
on until we get
Hmm.
later on in life.
That you have
Um,
to stand up to. And
yeah.
even you speaking to this name conversation, it took some years for me to even like my name. I didn't truly like even saying my real name until I went to my HBCU. It was no
Mm,
longer embarrassing. It was no longer too many letters. It was no longer a joke. And
yeah.
I learned to correct people when it was said incorrectly, and so
Hmm.
I attribute a lot of that going to an HBCU and just being
Hmm.
unapologetic about um, my name not being Christian, or my name having too many letters, or it being complicated for someone to say. So and I also consider, for though my mom calls me Kia. Kia is my nickname. So when people call me
Yeah.
Kia, I'm actually extending, grace to you and saying like I'd like for you to talk to me like how my friends talk to me. So, feel free to call me Kia. But yeah, that story carried a lot of just like, ugh, when I get older, I'm going to change it. And I'm glad to have
Hmm.
had that black college experience that helped me appreciate my name.
Yeah. Like I didn't get a chance to go to HBCU, but growing up in DC, I was right next to one with Howard University, and I used to sneak around campus and get some of that black love through different
Hmm.
parties and different events that would happen
Hmm.
there. So the real question is, when the kids grow up, where they going to school?
We haven't talked about that. That's a good question. I'm
Dad
down
got
for
strong
Howard.
opinions, I'm sure.
I'm not. I'm down for Howard. I've always wanted to live in the DMV area, so I'm open. I'm open to following them if they decide to go that route.
What, you rooting for another HBCU?
I'm
Like,
just saying that, yeah, I mean, I'm not closed off to Morehouse. I'm not closed off to I have two boys, so they obviously wouldn't go to Spelman. I'm not Xavier. I'm open for sure.
what?
I want them to be happy, and to the point of names again, their name is Ali and Aseem. So
Uh-huh.
they have some power behind their names as well that they need to make sure they stand up to. So, I am going to respect their decision, and if it's the DMV area, I'm there. I want a reason to have to move there. So,
I love it. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the love too. So yeah, let's talk about you and your career journey. Because I know me and you both in the DNI space. We both have a strong HR background and so forth. I never got a chance to really talk to you. How did you get into the world of HR? Like what? Like because I feel like our career, or at least for me, I didn't graduate and or from high school or college like I'm going to go into HR. It just so happened I got here. So
hmm
I don't know what was the journey like for you. How did you get into HR?
before I answer that, I don't know, is your screen fuzzy on your end? It keeps kind of going out on your end.
No, it's not fuzzy on my end. It's pretty clear.
Okay. Okay.
So
I just want to make sure
I'm
it's
sorry that it's
recording.
not looking crispy on your
I just
side.
want to make sure you get what the footage you need.
Yeah, yeah. Even if it's
Okay.
fuzzy on your end or my end, it's gonna take whatever the clearest footage is from
Okay. Okay.
wherever it's taking the signal from.
Like you're frozen right now. Okay. It could
Yeah,
be,
sorry
maybe
about
it's my
that.
signal. No, it's all good. I just
Okay.
want to make sure you have what you need. Um,
Yeah.
so my road to human resources, I kind of felt like I have a master's in education
Mm-hmm.
and my concentration is in management. And I found myself on this just career path that was stuck in higher ed. So I had done like student recruitment, I had
Mm-hmm.
done some academic advisement, and I continued to want to like revamp this box that other HR people were putting me in, and
Yeah.
assuming that I could only do um, higher ed or K through 16, education support, when I wanted to do staff development. I wanted to do corporate America learning and development. And so what I was finding was I was just hitting these roadblocks. I was put in a box, and I finally said, you know what? I think what will get me out of this would be if I went and got into human resources, some type of human resources education. And because I already had this master's and all these student loans, I said, what's the easiest track to kind of get this ball rolling? And so I went the certificate route, at Capella
Mm-hmm.
University. And Capella University has a certificate called Human Resources Management Post Baccalaureate Certificate.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of me going to go get another master's or another bachelor's, or I don't even know, is there a doctorate in human resources? I don't know. But nonetheless, instead of going that route, which seemed cost effective to me and the less time, was the certificate program. But the good thing about it, and the way I tell individuals when I'm in the interview process, is that it's the post baccalaureate, meaning you have to have completed a bachelor's program, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
master's level courses. And so if I wanted to complete the certificate, I'm sorry, if I wanted to go back and get a master's in human resources, they are graduate level courses. And so I could just
Yeah.
finish the program out and apply those credit hours to a master's program. So they're master level courses, and it was a fast paced, accelerated certificate program. I think I got it in about 15 months. Shout out to the 4.0 GPA. And I said, this is going to be it. And it kind of was it a little bit. That was
Mm-hmm.
kind of what got people to stop focusing on the higher ed and K through 12 experience. And from there, I started working at Scripps Health. I'm sorry, UCSD.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, I started out as a temp. I was like, you know what? It's time to be humble. You moved back to San Diego. You thought it was going to be
Yeah.
different because you got your little master's degree, and it wasn't. It was hustle time. And unlike Atlanta, you can't like hustle with three and four little small jobs to pay the bills. You got to have a job. So I said,
Yeah.
well, let me get in the door at UCSD and let me do this temp job, with learning management systems, which is overseeing. It's a system that oversees staff training. You're familiar with it. It's where you can schedule your employees staff and training in the learning management system, and you can kind of keep a record of courses they completed. And so I
Yeah.
was managing the LMS as an administrator at UCSD Health System. From there, they asked me to start creating some courses, some e-learnings, start teaching some new hires, and then that kind of then evolved into more like onboarding training. And I was
Yeah.
able to kind of push down some of that K through 16 resume with
Mm-hmm.
that tip job that kind of turned into a permanent job. And then now, like, I'm full-fledged instructional designing, LMS admin, staff development, which is kind of what sprinkled my way to um, launching my LLC.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because a lot of people often ask me, "Yo, how did you get into here?" I've been always wanting to get in here, and I realize everybody has a different journey on how they got there.
Mhm.
Because for me, I didn't go your route. I was in And my master's is in organizational development. Bachelor's is in marketing because I thought I was going to do a lot of sales and marketing because at the time my folks told me, oh, you got the gift of gab, boy. You need to start going in there and sell, right? So I was like, all right, what can I do something that's general that, but I don't want to be a sleazy
Right.
salesperson. I want to help people.
Right. Hmm.
And then with the education route, and then started doing workforce development, and then workforce development got me to working with HR professionals, which got me into HR to do
Yeah,
different
and every
workforce development
route
programs.
is yeah, that's interesting because some people did break through. I know a lot of people who did HR and not are and they're not in HR. They still didn't get that golden opportunity, but want to be in
Hmm.
HR. So I consider us blessed and like you said, able to make an impact
Hmm.
in our roles in our workplace community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in your journey, like I feel you got those technical skills and you got everything as far as education wise. But I love the fact that even in your journey of talking about it, you tell the story of like how that humble beginning, humble pie.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't start off here. I worked. You know, as Drake would say, started from the bottom. Now we here, right? And then you got your foot and exposure into.
Yes.
What would you say was your success to that? Was it were you networking with folks that got you into the next thing, or just did you just start there and then every time the opportunity came up, you reapplied to this new opportunity? What was that ladder to success that finally got you into HR and building out those programs and doing those trainings and those learnings when you have never really done it at a corporate level or a professional level before?
That is a good question. I'd say it was a gumbo of several different things that I did.
Okay,
One would be adopting mentors along the way and
all right,
doing what I call non-job opening interviews, so just like informational interviews,
okay.
and asking people like yourself, like, is there anyone in your network that you think I can talk to see how they navigated their career? And I can remember those testimonies to this day. Like, maybe one person gave me a nugget of what to do differently with my resume. Maybe someone else just told me about a story about grit and sacrifice, and it just kept me, it kept me humble, but kept me thriving. Someone else may have given me an informational interview with a colleague of theirs who was like, if I were you, I would do this, I would pick these classes, and you know, just whatever recommendations they may have had. When I one person specifically who was like a VP in HR at Scripps told me, when I'm in a room with other colleagues, the thing
Hmm.
that got me through, to where I am right now is I think that people know that when they come to me, I am a subject matter expert of one to two things. I don't speak just to speak. I don't just open up, conversations just to be heard. People know that I am an expert of this thing. So figure out of all the things that you learned, what are you an expert at? And I can say right now, learning management systems and instructional design. Like,
Mm,
is it Adobe Captivate or is it Rise? I don't need to get into, and maybe I do need to figure out which system am I an expert at. But
mm,
it's like pick something and stick with it. Don't have this junky resume with all these different things. And then, so that's just one side of the gumbo. Another side of the gumbo is, like yourself, you have a background in marketing. I have a background in communications. And so I would look at my resume as if, taking my own self out of the resume and thinking about what would someone else want to see in the resume. And so I learned to have different resumes. If I wanted to go back to higher ed, which there were times that I did have to do that, whether it was temp or summer gig, upward bound. I taught a couple of classes.
mm.
I had different resumes. So
Yeah.
that's just using my background in communications, and there's little sprinkles of marketing in there, where I just said, you know what, I need to have separate resumes. And then now that I have this DNI piece that attaches to my HR, again,
Mm,
completely different emphasis on certain words, on certain things that I did in that job on my resume to make sure I'm getting the best bang if I'm going for a D&I job. Still using the
Yeah.
HR stuff. Um, so just taking nuggets from different um, resume tips.
Yeah.
And then also I took some freebies like, hey, do you mind if I, like Adobe Captivate, again, I started in that role as a temp. I didn't come in as an e-learning developer. Um, and I self-taught myself that system. And once I did that, it was like the doors just came open. Like, oh, I'll be willing to try something else. I'll practice it at home. I'll sign up for a free trial so I don't charge the organization any money and, present something to them that I just created. So that was another way to kind of got my resume to start looking more like a corporate learning and development professional.
Yeah. Now, when you were telling me this, when you were talking about the, you know, picking that like profession or that thing you're expert at, and I now recall some of the conversations that we had around LMS and you schooling me on some things, and I'm like, look, I'm not the LMS expert.
Asking you some questions about how did the counties work. Yes, yes, yes.
I was like, I just use the system. I'm not the expert in the
I just
system.
use it. I
You
don't.
know,
I don't create it. And that was
but
because that was an opportunity where I was bringing in skills that I had. I wasn't necessarily being flagged the LMS person either, but I was looking to see if that was something that I could help leverage to kind of streamline and get that department to current state,
yeah.
instead of
But I do
working
remember
harder.
like when you were talking like, oh, that's a great idea. I don't know anything about like the LMS systems like that. I just know we use it and that's how we use it.
It
But
it
crafting what you're
does
trying
what
to
it
craft,
does.
it sounds good, but I just don't know how to do it.
And that's okay. And that's what she told me. There's just some things, don't try to be everything to everybody because you lose credibility. I'll never forget that. And that is true. When she walks in the room, you notice her, and when she speaks, people listen. And
Mhm.
so that's the kind of leader I want to be, that you know what, when they come to me, they know they're going to get an answer about what I'm good at and what I'm a resource for. And what I am not, I don't try to make excuses and try to be, the savior of everything, because it just, it's just not a good look. And I think sometimes first generation college graduates, first generation
Mhm.
career BIPOC people, we don't have those mentors helping us with navigating spaces about, you know, am I pitching too much? Am I trying to do too much? Am I so focused on being what's that new word we're saying? Imposter syndrome. Am I too focused on the imposter syndrome that I'm trying
Mm.
to speak every time I'm in a room with important people? Um, she kind of confirmed for me that it's okay not to do that, but the caveat is to be an expert of what you are an expert of,
Yeah.
and it
And I
works.
think the piece of advice you gave is not only helpful in career, but it's helpful in business too. It will help you excel, transcend, and really elevate your business when you can niche down to your ideal customer, your market, your thing that you're good at. And I think a lot of people when they start their career or business, they have trouble doing this, and you've been able to do that successfully. Watching you in your journey. First, tell me about the like, you know, how did you, first things first, about that journey of transitioning. Let's talk about the transitioning, you transitioning from the corporate world to career. How was that journey for you, and how were you able to like successfully just well, it appeared to me that you successfully just transitioned so seamlessly to corporate world, to
You're
starting and
saying
running your own
entrepreneurship?
business and
Okay.
entrepreneurship. How were you? How did what made you decide to do it? How did you do it? And how did yeah? Let's start there. What made you do it, and how did you decide to do it?
Yeah, what made me do it was actually working at the county and realizing, hey, in my role, I'm staff development specialist, and we aren't working smarter. We don't have access to LMS. Like as a employee, as a learner, I can go and take LMS courses, but I could not assign or create e-learnings and assign them to new hires as the staff development specialist. So that was my first thing, like, whoa, okay, the department is not current with quickly turning around learning outside of requisition in this room, sitting in the room for 4 hours. We got to turn the lights on. We have to have computers plugged in. We got to bring snacks. Someone physically has to be in person. And so that means that's a salaried person that has to do instructional orientation versus some of it could be offboarded or done via e-learning. Well, when the pandemic happened, as you remember, that was one of my inbox messages to you, we were kind of sent home with like not really sure what the plan was. So that happened in the workplace. If we had new hires coming, we didn't know how we were going to onboard them in regards to training. So that was the first space where I was like, okay, we're not instructional design. We're not using education technology in even the county right now. Not from the HR level, but in the division level or department level, I forget the terminology, to train new hires. That's a miss. Then my son, who was in a 3 to 4 year old classroom for students who had IEP, early diagnosis of different special education or invisible disabilities or visible disabilities. And he was in that classroom, and he was sent home with no real plan on how he was going to continue to get his behavioral support, his developmental support, his speech support, his cognitive, gross motor. So, and then he
Mm-hmm.
also had occupational therapy just for like learning how to do certain things like self feed and not choke on solids. And he was in so many different services. So now you have
Mm-hmm.
corporate America, there's a gap. K through 12, there's a gap. Then now I'm trying to get him in his doctor's appointments, and that was a gap. There was no way he can get his therapy appointments virtually. No one was virtual. All three of those spaces lacked the technology to give the support either to the parents to teach the child or to the HR person to teach the staff. As I just told you, my track is now corporate instructional design. I have done these e-learnings. I have done virtual learning from Zoom or Skype or what have you. And I have been wondering what is my generational wealth space. I'm in education, I'm in HR, like what do I how does that turn into generational
Mm-hmm.
wealth? Well, honestly, I don't know how many other people have been able to say that the pandemic was my answer. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I do. This is what I'm a subject matter expert of. And there's clearly a need at
Mm-hmm.
Rady's Children, at Poway Unified School District, and at the County of San Diego, where if there was someone to turn around, I mean, we couldn't just ask you all to create all these e-learnings for our new hires. And so that was the caveat that lit the match. And I literally got on my computer. So to the how, I got on my computer. I went to Microsoft Word. I looked at templates, and there's business proposal checklist template, and I just started filling in the questions: what, why, mission, values, funding, services, revenue. Like it literally just asks you all the necessary questions to creating a business proposal. And it literally took me probably 3 evenings because I had two little ones at home where I just started filling in those answers. And because I had been an instructional designer, that's someone who creates education and training virtually in a
Mm-hmm.
information system software, technology software. Um, I can take a PowerPoint and turn it into an e-learning. I was able to spit out how I could do all of that easy. Now the finance part was the part that was in question.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't necessarily easy because I had two kids at home. I had one that was 1 years old, so the daycare
Yeah.
closed. And so he was running around on his iPad. I had a 4 year old who was out of three different services, which is, I just want to bring light to the fact that, the pandemic really did not consider our special learners, our disability audience.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic didn't discriminate, but I'm saying in terms of like taking the mask off and things like that, it hasn't been really evaluated considering our at risk individuals. And
Yeah.
so, even for those parents who were stuck at home with their kids on Zoom in tears, imagine how I was feeling when he had to stop his all of his therapy services at the crucial age of 3.5 going into 4.
Yeah.
My husband was at home. We were all packed in here on top of each other with no plan of how we were going to get through this pandemic. So it definitely wasn't easy.
Yeah, that's when you say the struggle was real.
Real,
It got real,
real.
real.
Yeah,
But
but
here's here's the thing.
it's
You
a pandemic. It's a pandemic. Not pandemic free. Yeah, pandemic free business. Like,
mhm.
if a pandemic happens again, I can't be shut down. It would, it could be nothing more but more business opportunities for me. So it actually worked in my favor, and the light bulb went off. Like, this is your entrepreneurship track. So,
Because like everybody needed to go virtual at that point and figure out how
hmm
to create, digital learnings, digital resources that could help shift not only the culture but the way we do business. So like that was a perfect prime opportunity, and I think it's still a prime opportunity, as you say. And I love the fact that you looked at that problem as an opportunity, and I think that's the best type of business model you can have when you can find the opportunity in the problem and help solve problems for people. Makes you so valuable, makes your business so valuable. And I think that's exactly what you've been able
thank you.
to do with your business. So tell me how you came up with the name for this. I know you took me through how you sat there, did all the paperwork. How did the name come about? Then how did you start to then, go out, develop your clients, and then really make a name for yourself?
So to the name, with this, you're really good at this interview thing. So the name story, champion instructors. So my oldest son, the one that I was referring to, his name is Aseem, and that's
Okay.
Arabic for champion. He
Okay.
was my miracle baby. Yeah, he was my miracle baby. And I mentioned a little bit earlier that I helped co-write the July is Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month for California. I think I gave the whole title. And so
hmm
I have a story behind uterine fibroids. And we weren't sure about fertility. And so he is my miracle baby. And the second one is my miracle baby too. But that first child, especially if it's difficult and a challenge. And so uterine fibroids are benign tumors, but
hmm
you don't know at the time if they're going to be cancerous, and so you got to kind of go through it, get the biopsy and all that until you finally get the news that it's non-cancerous, and they grow in the womb of the uterus. And so his story is a story of triumphant and celebration, and so we named him Aseem for champion.
mm
And so we are champion instructors, education and training.
mm
And so the theme, if you go to my Instagram, champion instructors, education and training, or my LinkedIn or Facebook, same name, um, it's chalkboard, charcoal
Yeah.
gray with the old school chalkboard, even though I'm using technology, so I'm kind of tying in that chalkboard as an educator. The champion instructors education and training is like in yellow chalk, and so my
hmm
wedding colors were charcoal gray and yellow. So there's meaning behind the name and meaning behind the colors. So that's interesting that you asked that. How I get my clients? How I get my
Well, you
clients?
don't have to really
Well,
go into how you get your clients, but
oh
how did
yeah,
you
I've got
really
that's
make a name for yourself as champion instructors? I mean, the name
yeah,
says it all, but how did
yes.
you go out there and
Champion
start to
says it all,
market?
doesn't it? I mean, I feel like I named it after him, and it makes me proud to use the meaning of Asim um in my business. So that's a little bit of that general wealth hopefully that I'm able to create for both of my
There.
sons. Um so in terms of getting clients, I would say honestly, I would think about that HR VP from Scripps. She's no longer there. She's an African American woman. Um, I would say that I stick to, and I didn't always. We're gonna put this little, honest bug out there. I did have some people say, like, Kia, like, that's a lot that you're trying to. I did list three things. Corporate America had challenges, K through 16 had, maybe not 16, because higher ed has been using LMSs and they have
Yeah.
been using online learning and Blackboard since I was an undergrad, and that was 20 some years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
so, or at least they started a little bit after I graduated. I take that back. Um, and then I mentioned corporate America, K through 6, K through 12, and then telemedicine as it relates to hospital, giving virtual appointments and kind of telling me how to give therapy to my son. I then became the therapist via Zoom. I wanted to save all of those different communities and I wanted all of them to be my audience. And I was asking questions from business professionals like, why can't I be Walmart? Like, I want to sell Christmas trees, TVs, bottles, wipes, you know, Tylenol. Like, why can't I do that? And it was like, you don't start out doing that. Like, you need to be going back to what she was saying. And like you said, had I thought about it that way, like, who is my audience? Pick one, maybe one and a half, and test that out. Make sure it works. Be an expert in that space first, and then kind of think you can go and be Target and Walmart. So what's been working is being an expert, a subject matter expert, offering 1 to 2 services to one audience.
Mm-hmm.
And my one audience right now is adult learners. Do I have an itch to go to hospitals and say, hey, I can offer this to you for your virtual, guardian who has no idea how to even get on Zoom, and I can create you, quick start guides or tip sheets on how to tell grandma how to get into her Zoom, because that's education. Yes, I'd like to, but I can't get so caught up in wanting to be everything to everybody, um,
Mm-hmm.
and every industry. And so my audience right now is corporate learners, and being able to stick to that, I think, helps with reputation. I think
Yeah.
people are expecting the same thing versus when I first started, my social media was like, hey, do you have students who blah, 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 blah. Then it was like, hey, like, are you a therapist who needs to create? And I think people didn't understand where I was going, even though I understood it. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
learning curve for me, not being a business necessary woman, but being, you know, consulting in the business field of learning and development. It took a different, experience to kind of get that together. And I think what's happening now, because I'm still at the infantry of, creating that name, I think when I'm getting my reviews,
Mm-hmm.
prospective clients are going to go to my reviews and they're going to better understand who I am, what we're doing, what we offer, and what problems we solve. If I'm all over the place with the Walmart philosophy, they're going to be like, okay, well, that's not me. Let me just log off and not pay attention to her site.
Yeah, because that clear messaging helps
Yeah.
customers not be confused and dial in, right?
Yeah.
And then once you get
It
them
helps me
dialed
with
in,
my marketing too. It
yeah.
helps me not like create all this social media for three different viewers, and maybe that was a little bit of greed or just excitement, but that I think that happens when you're new. And I think that, depending on who gave me the message, how I heard it.
Hmm.
Um, and so it took
But I
several
think it
people to
happens
have
to
to
all
kind
new
of.
entrepreneurs. To tell you the truth, there's only a few of us that don't niche. We start off with this grandiose idea brought down,
Mhm,
and then we have to pivot or narrow down until
mhm,
we keep getting it right. And sometimes you still in that phase as you're in the growth phase. You have to decide: do I still stay in this niche, or do I pivot to this, or am I adding
right.
this as a component? Like you're still in that evolution phase. I don't think it ever fully ends, because if it ends, then you end up like the blockbusters and
Right.
the red boxes who refuse
Mhm.
to um,
You're a blockbuster.
innovate
You didn't take
and
us
and
back to Blockbuster.
yeah, some of us know who that is. You refuse to pivot, innovate, and then change as the needs of your
The
business
time.
change, your clients change, and so
Mhm,
forth. So
mhm,
I
mhm.
love that. I love that. I'm thinking to myself, like, man, with all the different powerful names, life lessons, education that you have in your lifetime, what would you say is one good lesson life has taught you?
One good lesson life has taught me. Maybe is it business or personal, or it could be either.
It could be either or.
I think the pandemic taught me that it's important to take. I know this probably sounds like, wow, that's the life lesson. I think the pandemic taught me to really take time out.
Oh no, that's a
Because
good lesson.
okay, because I look back and I'm like, I have given companies years. I have given them blood, sweat, and tears. And over the past 6 years, I have made no, yeah, no, 8 years. Past 8 years, I have not taken a real vacation.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and I've always been like, oh, well, I'll take a 2 week vacation here, or I'll do it. And then it's like, I have babies, and that's not a vacation. Like, that's maternity leave. Like, let's be clear. That ain't no vacation. And
Mm,
um and the pandemic happened, and then you could, but the way that my anxiety was set up, I was like, we're not going
mm,
nowhere. We barely still go anywhere today. And when we do, we have on a mask. So I just wish I had spent more quality time with my family or with myself, because that's okay too.
mm-hmm.
Um, just being off and taking the time off. I think little spurts of massages and going to the gym and girls' night out and the comedy show. Yes, that is wellness. Um, but those 2 week vacations or whatever your company gives you, the PTO, that you end up not taking because you're like, oh, I'll take it when. Um, 8 years it's been, and
Mm,
I probably wouldn't have felt so exhausted like when the pandemic happened if I had been annually or every 2 years really doing myself a service of just being out of email, out of text messaging, off of social media, and just taking that quality time to enjoy life, even if it was a staycation, really doing that, not taking on home jobs and, oh, we're going to fix this room up and like, no, time off.
yeah.
Not because the world stopped and forced me to be still.
Yeah, and I think that's a lesson that there's a lot of people learned. I learned that myself, and I'm still learning to, just pause and just, spend time with self. And I think I saw a study the other day where they talk about mental health is at a all time high, and
Mhm.
with everything that's going on in the world today, and that man, we're gonna need a lot of therapy in the future. I'm
Mhm.
assuming with everything that's
Absolutely.
going on in our
Absolutely.
society. Yeah,
I,
so
I, I recommend it. I'm an advocate. I am a participant, and
mhm,
it doesn't have to be something that's scary or it's wellness too. And some of the
mhm.
sessions go well, some of them don't,
Yeah,
and that's how it should be. That's how it should be. And and it does me no good to say I'm all these things on my resume if I don't take this lesson, this life lesson, and
hmm,
really apply it. I think a lot of us from the BIPOC community are constantly trying to prove and constantly trying to achieve and working
hmm,
on being what's that? There's another new term, high functioning
hmm,
and still like achieving just middle management, and we're just doing, we're putting so much energy into a lot of things. And I don't want it to take a pandemic again for me to say that, well, I was able to turn everything off and kind of just be still for a minute on
yeah,
my own terms, so.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that also helps in the like even when you can stand still for a minute, it helps you to pause and gain clarity on what it is you truly
That's true.
value, what it is you truly want, and then focus that energy. So there is some value into pausing, which you've clearly been able to do to transition and start this amazing business that's going to help a lot of other
Thank you.
people. Um, Now, what's some advice you would, because you're clearly going to inspire some young girl, somebody who's in their mid-level career, who's like, man, Kia preaching the business right now. I've been had this idea that I should have been. I'm a following her footsteps. What's some advice you would give to somebody who specifically might want to get into the space that you're in, right? And start a consulting business to help others, maybe whether it be create curriculum, create marketing materials, create I don't know, educational design or whatever it is they want to create to
Hmm.
help people. What's some advice you would give to somebody like that?
Sure. Some advice I would give is because I am from the art side of the brain and not so much business necessarily, even though I've gotten a lot of coursework and case studies where I've had to, get my feet wet with some business case studies and whatnot. I would say these accelerator programs are definitely, fast track little, certificate. When I say little, I'm talking about the time frame,
Mm-hmm.
6 week, 9 weeks accelerator programs. I would definitely take advantage of those, especially if you don't have a business background, because you don't know what you don't know. And I also think when you're a solo entrepreneur, what's definitely helping me, because there are times where I'm like, look to my left, I don't have a colleague. Look to my right, I have a partner, but she's not like an active, like day to day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're working on the same things all the time. And so what's been helping me is that I am in network with other entrepreneurs, and especially like I'm on a board for Black entrepreneurs, leaders and learners, and it just allows me to just hear other struggles, hear other accomplishments, and be able to bounce like, hey, I have this new person. Does she need an I-9 or a W-2 or a W-9? Not a W-2, but like, what do I need to do to onboard her? Like, I may know this kind of stuff from an HR perspective, but what about as an LLC? Um,
Mm-hmm.
the marketing and the sales, those are things like, I don't just naturally know that stuff from an LLC owner. So being in company with other entrepreneurs and going to those monthly meetings and hearing other people speak and then asking questions. We specifically have through Bell mastermind sessions.
Mm.
I sometimes listen to some of the entrepreneurs that you've interviewed. And even if I'm just riding in the car, I have gone on Clubhouse and listened and gone to specific like little listening sessions. I've gone to Eventbrite and gone to different listening sessions that are based on my niche industry. And then I also follow influencers who are doing well. Like, and I thumbs them up. I like their post. I turn a little notification bell on. I don't steal their content, but I definitely take their resources that they give out when they're educating, and
Mm-hmm.
I use them for my greater good, because I'm still learning. I'm still at that early stage of
Yeah.
learning. So I would say networking. I'm also recently joined the San Diego, I believe it's San Diego County Black Chamber, and then the North San Diego Chamber of Commerce. And so I believe as BIPOC entrepreneurs, don't limit yourself to just BIPOC, networks. You
Yeah.
gotta get out there and see, hey, the money is green, so get out there. And I mean, be a part of both. I'm not saying don't be a part of the BIPOC owned. I'm not saying that. However, see what you don't know about another group of individuals and how they're navigating, and what they do differently. Observe, take notes, network. And so
Uh-huh.
that's what I am literally doing right now. And I can come back in a year and tell you how that worked out for me. But because I'm a solo LLC owner, I need to hear other people speak my same language.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps me motivated, keeps me grounded, and keeps me humble.
Yeah, and I say the same thing for me. It inspires me to hear all the stories of fellow entrepreneurs like yourself, people that look like
Thank
me
you.
going through it, being successful, and yeah, that's a blueprint for success right there. And thank you for listening to Little LS. Hercules, Hercules.
I listened to some
uh,
of your guest speakers. That's what it's for. That's free content sitting out there, to just suck up. And I'll save it and go back. If I can't sit through the whole hour, I'll go back and listen to it again. And it's healthy confirmation when you don't have a coworker to
Hmm.
bounce ideas off of, because it'll
Yeah.
get lonely, and it'll get, especially if you work in a 9 to 5. Now that's a whole nother session, and
That's
I
all.
need somebody to
Yeah,
talk
I
to
don't
me
think we
about that.
got time for that talk right
Yeah,
there. We might have to say that
yeah,
for another
working
time.
a 9 to 5 and managing, and how to do that transition. But yeah, so suck up the free Eventbrites, and listen to your podcast. And I mean, you're doing
Yeah.
it like you're part of different groups as well. Your bio doesn't just say I am in the Black MBA program or organizational
Yeah.
development program. So yeah.
Like, so, what do you think? Because obviously we're in this for the long haul. We got a vision of what we would like our businesses and what our career to look like in the future. But when you look at the future of the work that you do, and specifically talking about the equity, diversity, and inclusion space and professional development space, where you're going to be creating content for, what does the future look like for the BIPOC community in these spaces? Like when
Yeah,
you see
so
it
it's
from your
interesting you
lens.
asked that too, because I feel like I haven't touched on the diversity and inclusion. One of the things that my sweet spot in what makes me different from Udemy or Capella
Mm-hmm.
University or some of those evergreen locations where you can go and pick out classes, Eventbrite where there's somebody selling their course, is that I create tailor-made courses. I'm not saying I'll never create evergreen courses where you can just video on demand and watch my e-learnings. But they are specifically to that organization. So, like, if you are looking to create a course about your expertise, I will create one for you to sell to your audience. And yes, that was a plug for you entrepreneurs out there.
There you go.
But the thing that makes me different in also doing that and making it tailor made to your audience and to you as the subject matter expert is that I feel it's important to keep my curriculum diverse and inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel it's important to do a accessibility check-in. So, like, where are
Mm-hmm.
your audiences? Do they have access to computers? Do they have Wi-Fi? There's no point in making something if for a particular audience and they don't have that accessibility. And so those check-ins are important to me because I believe in the learner getting it. I don't want them struggling through my curriculum. And so I like to have an understanding of what is their background, what is their native language, so that the curriculum speaks to them.
Mm-hmm.
If the curriculum is always making the doctor a male and not a female, well, there's some gender bias there. So how can I make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the learner is experiencing my curriculum with Malik and Terrell and Kia
Mm-hmm.
as the characters in the scenario, and let Kia be the doctor and let Terrell be the nurse or the medical
Mm-hmm.
assistant, or let the woman be the engineer, and the male be the babysitter. I'm just making this up, but just
Yeah.
I definitely use that in my curriculum to make sure it's inclusive. I make sure
Yeah.
that the visibility of the characters, their ethnicity looks different, and there's a range of ethnicity, and there's color and dynamic, and
Mm-hmm.
there's identity representation, and that's very important to me, because then I'm able to put in my social media um, equity and access and inclusivity. I'm able to use my
Mm-hmm.
influence for making an impact in spaces that I may not just be getting on the microphone and saying, "Hey, you are doing this No Child Left Behind program, and you are not considering of special needs students," or, "Hey, as
Mm-hmm.
a Bank of America." This is not a real scenario, but you're offering these trainings and you have not considered the individual who is hard of hearing or has
Mm-hmm.
vision impairment. Have you considered closed captioning? And so I am DNI in my work in that way. That's my way of being inclusive. I do
Yes.
bring that when I work my 9 to 5s as well, because I think students are not going to have that aha moment if they can't
Mm-hmm.
relate, if the curriculum is not relative to them, and it doesn't represent who they are. Why would they care about
Yes.
anything that you're teaching them if it's a waste of their time and it's not something they can connect to? So when I
Yeah.
am making that connection, people are paying attention, and so they don't mind sitting through an hour curriculum. and they can call back, you know what, I'm going to be more productive at work because that curriculum made sense to me because I got it. And I got it because Kia sprinkled in inclusivity and identity, and I removed microaggressions and all that good stuff. And so when I am working and I am the DNI champion representative in an organization, I carry all of that with me and I speak to those spaces, um, because I believe that's just something that I'm called to do, even if you didn't pay me
Yes.
to do it. Um,
Can
I
I
don't
get an
know if I
amen from
remember
the
your question.
organization? Amen. Key over
Amen,
here preaching
amen,
the truth
amen,
right now. And I love
amen.
everything that you said because it really highlights. And look, my voice wants to go out as soon as I'm trying to get my point across. But you know, representation matters just so much, whether it's accessibility or relatability. Me
Hmm.
being able to see myself in this training, in this materials, whether it's from having the access to it to me looking like the person that I wish and dream and hope to
There you
become one
go.
day. When we don't have
There
that,
you go.
we get a whole generation that's like, I don't know if that's for me. And then we have those children go to be adults with limiting beliefs about what they could do and be
Hmm.
because they
Hmm.
haven't seen it before. And that's
Hmm.
what I try to highlight in our podcast. So many different people being amazing with their natural talents and gifts and abilities that wasn't harnessed, or maybe harnessed at some point in life, and they were able to turn that into a business and career, which some of these folks out here that should be doing it that are not doing it
Yes.
because they just cannot see themselves or didn't have the
Yes.
means or don't see anybody that look like them that's doing it.
Yes.
And so let this be a testimony to you.
Yes.
If you can see it, you can achieve it.
Hmm.
Even if it's not on that screen, hopefully we'll get it on the screen or that story be told someday, and hopefully that story is you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
let's end off like this because I know me and you can speak forever, but I try to keep this in the drive time. Uh,
Hmm.
what is some things that you are currently working on, and where can people find you?
Okay, so you can find me, you can email me at Kia, at championinstructors with an S.com. My website is www.championinstructors.com. You can find me also on LinkedIn at Kia Edwards, Kia, Edwards, Edwards. And what am I working on right now? I am just rolling off a project with an amazing company that has been great. And I recently just completed a 2D animated explainer video. These are like 1 to 3 minutes or less, little snippet videos that can be used to train clients, train staff. They can go back and watch them again. So those are some other like software tools I use is the 2D animated explainer video software.
Mm-hmm.
And I just finished one with the San Diego County Black Chamber, I believe it's county now. Um, I am supporting Bell, Black Entrepreneurs, Leaders, and Learners, with some organizational stuff. I am on the board, but
Mm-hmm.
they've needed some recent work to be done, and so again, as the hustler that I am offering champion instructors to help get some of their organization stuff together. And I got a couple proposals sitting out in space to do some HR stuff. Sometimes it's not e-learnings that I'm doing, but like staff onboarding manuals. And so that still is training and development. And so those proposals I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
waiting to hear back for. So yeah, I got a couple of pots boiling. Like I said, one I'm rolling off, one I'm waiting to hear back, and then I'll be busy working with Bill over the summer. I just recently completed a good amount of work for getting the state of California certified, city certified
Mm-hmm.
businesses, minority owned businesses, and women owned businesses, and
Okay.
economically disadvantaged business certs. I'm literally like this close from that being completed, so I'm excited about that. I already have those federal certs, so I'm hoping to get some county contracts coming in and bids coming in that way. So every eye on the stove is on. Some are hot, some are on low, but they're on.
Okay.
And yeah, and all that other stuff I mentioned before. Still doing that. I support Poway Unified School District and their special education committee. I'm on that committee to make sure I'm
Right.
able to have a voice in the room for special education BIPOC students. I am specifically, passionate about that that identity group, and
Yeah.
yeah, busy,
Girl, you
booked and
stay
busy. No,
busy.
not
Booked
too
and
busy for
busy.
more clients though. Not too busy.
So yeah, I hear that. She booked and busy, but not too busy for more clients. So if you
No,
need some help with
eyes
that,
are on. They're not boiling over. The eyes are on. So
yeah, definitely reach out.
entrepreneurship, you got to keep it moving.
Connect with my girl Kia because she is amazing at what she does,
Thank you.
and I am a fan, and I can't wait to see
You.
what good gumbo you gonna keep making in this kitchen with all these
My
irons on
gumbo is
and
nice too.
oh okay.
I gotta get y'all one day. You and wifey and the family. I'll make you all some. And it's no pork, so I got you.
No, for sure, for sure, for sure. So, Kia, thank you for spending this time with us. If you all were driving and you didn't get the information, don't worry. I'm gonna put it all in the show notes. So I'm gonna get that information from her so you can connect with her and learn more and see what she's doing and what she's up to. Kia, any last words of wisdom for the people before we head out?
Oh. Be grateful, and as one of the Bell uh, VP president says, and wash your hands. Wash your hands. I want to say keep
Be
the mask on because
grateful and
people be
wash your
mad.
hands.
People be
Miss
mad
Rona
about the
don't
mask
play.
thing, but
Yeah,
at least wash your hands. Keep your
yeah,
hands clean
yeah. Please
because
keep
it's
your
still
hands
out here.
clean.
Rona is still booked and busy too.
Keep your hands clean. Get the
Yes,
sanitizer.
and
You
be
can't
grateful.
find soap and water. We
Yeah,
appreciate you.
be grateful. There's so much to be grateful for, and wash your hands.
Yes. Yeah. So be grateful and wash your hands. I'm gonna
Yes.
take that with me all day today. So thank you, Kia. I appreciate you so much,
Yes,
sis.
thank you. I appreciate you too.
And then for everybody who's listening, I'll put the show notes in and we'll catch you on the next time.
Yes.